Female gentlemen, South Park sucks now, according to Blooms. I have no idea what's going on, but this is incredible stuff. The new South Park came out. Everyone told me to check it out. Let's see what it's all about.
For my legal team. And speaking of cryptocurrency, how about we actually talk about the new episode of South Park that came out?
Let's
Like
go.
I said, I'm going to be testing out some new methods to try to avoid copyright, so let me know how you guys feel about it in the comments. So really short intro since I just spent like 4 minutes talking about something completely unrelated. This episode was a Halloween special. It released Friday night on Halloween.
Bro, is that Stephen Miller?
Instead of their usual Wednesday, which I think might be the first time they've ever not released on Wednesday, but I don't know. The episode was pretty decent. I would say it was around the middle of the pack of this season in terms of quality. Well, technically we're in season 28 now for some reason, but you know what I mean. One of the major plot points was Stan having this meta self-reflection on the state of the show, which I thought was pretty entertaining. Of course,
dude, they know they fell off. They know they fell off with the Trump stuff.
there was a heavy focus on the White House and this administration, though they're continuing with this theme of focusing on making fun of those around the president rather than the president himself, and all around it was an entertaining episode that had a lot of stuff I liked about it, but it didn't feel super cohesive, and in terms of actually moving the plot forward they've been setting up this whole season, it felt pretty weak. Entertaining, but not one of the best of the season. I definitely have mixed feelings on this one, so enough of this, let's get into it. But first, I want to give a quick shout out to the sponsor of today's video, Discreet, to make sure that gender, and recommend you go to adamandeve.com and check the amount of space between you and they know what Blooms at checkout. It's code Blooms at checkout.
All right, let's go, baby. Spooky, scary, psycho.
Oh yeah, I didn't do my slam poetry verse for the last video because I was sick, and you guys loved it the first time, so let me make up for that now. 250 million on the White House while most of the country can't afford rent. It's okay, just buy this cryptocurrency and you'll get rich.
Bro.
Man, I would have been better off doing Fent. South Park sucks now, I proclaim, brushing tears from my eyes. You're right, say Matt and Trey. They think the show sucks. They admit it in Kyle's monologue. They can't believe it's come to this. They're feeling trapped and shocked. Hassan's dog. The episode opens with Stan and Randy talking in the car, where we find out
You can't say the word shocked anymore without thinking of Hassan's dog.
that ever since they moved out of Tegrity Farms 4 episodes ago, the Marsh family has been homeless. This was a pretty funny way to open the episode since they just drop it on us out of nowhere. Like, nothing in the last few episodes has indicated this, and I think we all just expected them to move back into their old house. But no, Randy explains that he can't get his geology job back due to the government shutdown, and they can't afford to buy a house either, so instead they're moving in with Grandpa.
They're playing into the government shutdown, which was, by the way, done by the Democrat Party, not actually Trump. That's crazy.
Marsh, who lives in a nursing home.
Can't make me stay here. This is completely inhumane.
That's what I said. Didn't work.
At the White House, the president is busy tearing down the East Wing for his new ballroom, a reference to the fact that
why are they playing into this way too obviously? Like, this is just kind of what's happening.
the president is currently spending $250 million to do exactly that during this government shutdown, which honestly kind of feels like one big analogy for the state of this country as a whole. But he's interrupted by Dan Scavino and Pam Bondi, who tell him that they think someone is trying to stop his baby from being born. Pam Bondi reminds Trump of how great he is with a mysterious brown stain on her nose, showing once again that subtlety has never been South Park's strong suit. Now, a couple episodes ago, we learned that JD Vance is working with Peter Thiel to try to get rid of this baby so that he's next in line for the presidency. So he gives Peter Thiel a call to let him know that they're onto them, and even in his sedated state, Cartman can't help himself.
It should last another 6-7 hours.
Now,
Oh
from
my
the
god, there's no way. There's no way you did another 6-7 joke. This is brutal. This is brutal. This is cringe as fuck. Come on, dude.
last episode, Peter Thiel was meant to be taking Cartman to DC to exorcise this 6-7 demon thing out of him, but this scene is the only reference to that plot we get in this episode, so it seems like they're putting that on pause for the time being. Kenny and Kyle visit Stan at the retirement home, where we get a very interesting conversation between the boys.
The truth is, I think a lot of people are just afraid to admit that South Park sucks now. Yeah, everyone knows it. South Park sucks now. And it's because of all this political shit.
Now, obviously, this conversation
Bro, that might be the most meta thing I've ever seen in a TV show.
is a reflection from Matt and Trey on the current state of the show and how people seem to be feeling about it in general. The idea that South Park sucks now is a very common sentiment I've seen shared in my comment sections and all over social media. The truth is that a lot of people aren't enjoying the way this season is focused so heavily on politics, to the point where I don't blame people for saying it feels like a completely different show. And obviously, Matt and Trey are aware of these criticisms. In fact, fact that even...
Look, there are some previous seasons that definitely focused on politics and previous episodes that focused on politics. But this is like creating a hyper reality that's just purely blasting one side and not the other. And it's not even politics. It's just Trump bad again. And I'm so tired. Like, everyone's so tired of the Trump bad because that's the only thing you hear.
It seems like they know why people feel this way, with Stan specifically mentioning the lack of storylines focused on the boys.
Remember when we used to do stuff? Just us guys?
True.
Ever since all this political crap took over, it's like, what? Like what happened to us?
I mean, this is pretty much word for word one of the main criticisms I've made in almost all of my videos about this season. And of course, I'm not alone on this. A lot of fans have been feeling this exact same way. And even though I don't think this season sucks in the way a lot of fans do, I can still recognize that they've kind of fallen into the same trap they did back in season 20, and it just doesn't feel as much like South Park. It's interesting to see Matt and Trey reflect on this in real time and not...
See, in my opinion, one of the major issues with doing like this hyper political stuff is this is not going to be rewatchable, you know? Like, South Park, like, the actual good South Park episodes are infinitely rewatchable. Like, I just rewatched, like, the Nambla episode from, like, season 4 or something. It still holds up to this very day, you know? Like, and there are so many like that. Like, the one with Winnie the Pooh and, you know, the Chinese government and stuff like that. Like, all that is super rewatchable because it's a hyper-relevant topic, no matter what it is. Basically, all the South Park movies, from the Panderverse to the streaming wars, like, they're all hyper rewatchable stories because they're tackling interesting topics. I just feel like this entire season is not rewatchable because in a year no one will care that Trump was remodeling the White House. No one will care about any of these things, you know? Like, no one will care that Peter Thiel is working with JD Vance. And that's kind of all of these episodes.
Just dismiss this criticism as a whole, instead acknowledging why it is that people are starting to feel this way. One thing that has always been true of Matt and Trey is that they are very self-aware. They stay tapped into how people are feeling about the things they make, and they know why people feel the way they do. But another thing that's always been true about Matt and Trey is that they're gonna make whatever they want to make regardless of how people feel about it. I mean, that's kind of the whole philosophy of the show. If they think it's funny, it's a part of the show, even if it means pissing off their entire fan base in the process. And in many cases, they've relished in pissing off their entire fan base because to them, that's even funnier than any of the jokes they could make in the show. So the boys decide to start their own online community to find like-minded individuals who think South Park sucks now, and overnight the community gains over 700,000 members.
Damn.
So now, with a massive community behind them, of course, they immediately move into the natural next step when you've developed a large following online.
Introducing the South Park Sucks Now cryptocurrency coin.
No! No, they started off with a movement and then they launched a crypto. That's crazy. Yeah, the 6-7, good example. A really good example. 6-7, no one will even talk about this in a year. The 6-7 meme.
Unsurprisingly, Kyle isn't a big fan of making a meme coin since they made the community to try to start a movement to make South Park better, and Stan just seems more interested in profiting from it.
You mean to tell me that the Jew is not the one that wants to do the meme coin? Massive missed opportunity.
Hop on a call with their financial advisor, who happens to be someone we haven't seen in a long time. It's Kyle's cousin, Kyle. He played a large role in the Fractured But Whole video game in 2017, but in the show itself, he hasn't made an appearance since The Losing Edge, which came out 20 years ago. Now, if you aren't familiar with his character, his entire purpose is to be the representation of just about every
Jewish stereotype of all time.
Jewish stereotype in the book, so of course he's their financial advisor.
This isn't about a coin, it's about a movement. Yeah, that's some savvy jujitsu right there.
Personally, I love cousin Kyle, and
I'm so happy he's back. That's my goat. That's my boy. He's so relatable. He's just so relatable, guys, you know? That's why I like him, because of how relatable he is. It's true. It's all true.
How he is so incredibly annoying to everyone around him, so it was nice to see him make an appearance after such a long time. Now, the boys making a meme coin is obviously in reference to how crypto is so unregulated that 99% of the market is made up of scammers and incredibly rich people, but specifically, the current administration also has some shady ties to crypto. For example, the Trump family making over $800 million on crypto in 2025 alone, Donald Trump literally launching an
Nah, dude, absolutely. The administration scammed the shit out of people with crypto. Not even a question.
Endorsing his own meme coin as president of the United States, which was totally not a pump and dump. And of course, the fact that Trump randomly decided to pardon the Binance CEO who was arrested on money laundering charges. Yep. Binance, of course, having ties to World Liberty Financial, a company co-founded by Trump's sons, which sends 75% of token sales revenue to a company linked to their family. Now, some people may call this blatant corruption, but personally, I see it as savvy investing.
Yeah, that's some savvy jujitsu right there.
So while all this is going on, the president president is discussing how he thinks that the White House might be haunted as he keeps seeing this ominous figure stalking the halls.
It's here right
Oh my god.
Pretty sure that's your wife,
Was that supposed to be Melania terrifying in the corner?
sir.
He can't seem to escape this creature, and eventually he decides to hire some paranormal investigators to get to the bottom of it. The White House is looking extra spooky, and Stephen Miller plays the role of the ghoulish butler from every
Bro, the GOAT! Stephen Miller, the GOAT!
haunted house movie ever. The investigators decide to take a look at the contents of the mysterious brown substance that keeps appearing on Pam Bondi's nose when they discover something they didn't expect.
Seems to be 54% filet-o-fish sandwich,
I ate a filet-o-fish sandwich last night.
28% Taco Bell.
I ate Taco Bell this morning.
That's a good bit. I'm not gonna lie. I am not gonna even lie at all. This is a really good bit.
And it's 14% its own cum.
I ate.
The investigator
That is a really good bit. I'm not gonna lie. Impressive bit. Wow. Look, man, Pam Bondi does suck up. I'm not gonna lie. She does suck up to the president. She is something of a brown noser. All right, that's funny.
are immediately arrested and charged for falsifying reports and creating fake news. Stan is discussing their plans for the crypto rug pull with cousin Kyle, who is currently on his way to DC to get approval for it from Donald Trump Jr. Kyle has had enough of all of this, and he walks out on the plan. Cousin Kyle makes it to the extra spooky White House where he meets with Don Jr. This is interrupted by a mandatory seance. Everyone is at the seance, including Don Jr., Kristi Noem, and Brendan Carr, who were all characters in previous episodes.
Dude, is his hand in a cast in a perpetual infinite Nazi salute now? Are we just gonna see him for every episode with his hand in a Nazi salute in a cast? Bro.
Of the season. Pam ends up getting possessed by the spirit, and Trump eagerly talks to it, trying to get some answers.
I want to hear what it has to say. Epstein.
Oh my god, dude. You've gotta get some new material, bro.
No, you're right. Let's stop this.
The seance quickly devolves
Nothing happened. There is no Epstein. He never existed, actually.
into chaos, and it's truly a horror show. I actually think this scene might be my favorite from the episode, as all of these characters they've had throughout the season work incredibly well as monsters from a horror movie. Kristi Noem and her melting face, Brendan Carr shambling around like a zombie, and Don Jr. just looking like that.
That is
and of course
terrifying.
Melania just standing completely still in the corner.
Bro, that's awesome.
You're just
Oh,
looking
God.
like that. And of course
Bro, Melania just standing there. What, dude?
Melania just standing completely still in the corner with the giant hat covering her face. It's genuinely a pretty creepy character design, and when you put them all together like this, it really is perfect for a house of horrors. It felt very natural and made sense considering most of these characters were established weeks or months ago. It works super well, and I definitely appreciated it. Cousin Kyle gets freaked out and admits that the entire crypto market is essentially a money laundering scam for rich people, which immediately leads to him being arrested and charged for fraud.
No, my goat. He's my goat. Oh my god.
Held by Pam Bondi, who said, "We will continue to indict anyone who says bad stuff about our amazing president."
See, that is a really good call out because Pam Bondi said hate speech should be illegal, which is an obviously retarded thing to say.
We get one more scene where Stan is talking to Kyle about how South Park sucks and things will never go back to normal. Kyle responds with a line that seems like Matt and Trey talking directly to the audience, perhaps to give them a bit of hope.
Things will get back, Stan. I know it's hard to see right now, but things will go back to normal. And in the meantime, we just have to make the most of where we are.
Yeah, that's kind of what every single person in America is thinking right now. Hopefully things will go back to normal. The leftists are hoping for Trump to lose the next election and things will go back to normal, reopen the borders and no more fascism or whatever they're complaining about. People on the right want things to go back to normal, deport the illegals and actually not live in a, rotating door of just letting criminals out of jail forever. Like everyone's just kind of waiting for this to go back to normal.
The episode ends with Stan trying to enjoy his time at the retirement home and Melania ominously standing in the window of the White House while If I Didn't Care by the Ink Spots plays in the background.
I didn't care.
It's genuinely a pretty haunting end to the episode, so now let's talk about that ending a little bit as well as theorize on where the show goes from here.
All right.
So that ending conversation between Kyle and Stan definitely felt to me like Matt and Trey speaking to the audience, essentially telling us that the show is going to go back to how it was, but at this point they're too deep into the storyline to just move on. So
I disagree. I think that this is basically representing the audience. I think this is representing the people saying hopefully we'll go back to normal and Trump will lose the next election and then we won't need to talk about Trump. In my opinion, that's kind of what they're trying to say. No, it is weird how hard they're going at specifically one side.
They're going to see it through to the end and try to make the best of it. So let's talk about what exactly that means. And once again, even though it's technically 2 seasons, I'm just going to talk about it like it's one because it's just one continuous storyline. So this was the 7th episode of the season, and assuming this season ends in 10 episodes, which was the pattern before the Paramount deal, it seems like these next 3 episodes will be sort of the grand finale to this story, and most likely they'll essentially act as one 3-part episode. I say this because in the past where they've had these semi-serialized seasons like season 18 and 19, the last 2 or 3 episodes of both of those were essentially one big episode used to wrap up all the loose ends from the rest of the season. And for this season, there are a lot of loose ends. Cartman and Peter Thiel, Satan's pregnancy, JD Vance's plan to stop it all, Towley overhearing his plan, Jesus becoming a MAGA Christian, Randy leaving Tegrity, hell, even Mr. Mackey's plot from episode 2 seems unfinished. They really have set up a ton of different plot elements in this season that are just waiting to be concluded. And I think if they plan on making a satisfying ending for each of them, they're gonna need all 3 episodes to do it. And if they are able to pull it off and really make all of them have satisfying conclusions, it could be something really special. Now, that's a big if, because I can't imagine it'll be easy to make a cohesive story out of all these separate elements, but if they do manage to do it, it could make for one of the best season finales we've seen from the show. In my opinion, season 19's finale was the best they've done with this kind of setup, and in that case, they had significantly less story elements than they do now, so it's gonna take a lot to pull this off successfully. But either way, based on Stan and Kyle's conversation, it seems like they plan on completely moving past this once it's over, which I think will be a win for everyone. But let's finish talking about this episode for now and wrap this video up. Like I said at the beginning, I thought this was a good episode. It had a few jokes that I really appreciated.
There are a couple good bits in this episode, for sure. That group of, like, that seance of everyone standing there with Mulaney in the corner, and that is definitely a funny scene. And the brown-nosed Pam Bondi, that's also pretty funny. I'm not gonna lie. That is pretty funny. Dude, the plot twist, they just abandon all the plots and they just rage bait. That would be amazing.
Appreciated. The main downside was that it felt like it kind of stalled the story out a little bit. Based on my assumption about the finale spanning the next 3 episodes, I think that was intentional because they already had pretty much everything set up they wanted to before this episode, and they didn't want to change anything major in this one, so they just tried to focus on a self-contained story, which felt kind of out of place amongst the rest of the season. But I definitely still enjoyed it. I liked the self-reflection on the part of Matt and Trey, and that they were willing to basically tell us what their plan was moving forward. I thought it worked super well as a Halloween episode. Like I said, I couldn't believe how perfectly all the characters fit into this haunted house parody, and for me, that was probably the highlight of the episode. And of course, I was excited that they brought back Cousin Kyle, only for him to be arrested and sentenced to 10 years in prison. So all in all, it was a pretty decent episode. Again, I don't think it was the best from the season by any means, but it's around the middle of the pack. But yep, that's pretty much all I have to say about it. Thank you guys for watching.
For me, it's just frustrating that South Park seems like it's becoming slop. Like, the Trump bad isn't funny forever. Like, you know, and I'm very good about laughing at things that I support or laughing at myself and stuff like that. But it's like, it kind of gets grating when it's just from everywhere, you know? So, but realistically, no, there were definitely a couple of funny bits in this episode, you know? And I'm not scared to definitely say that as a fact. However, it just kind of feels like slop at this point. Like, I don't even know what they're trying to say. So many South Park episodes have, like, these really deep, thought-provoking meanings and social commentary, and now it really just feels like their social commentary is Trump bad, which is the generic social commentary slop that everything says. So, anyway, very excited to see what we have moving on from here. Hopefully Blooms is right. We get some epic finale, who knows? And I'll see you in the next one. Bye. Like, subscribe, and this video was streamed live on kick.com/Nuxanor. See you there. Stay weird, fam.